Log number 29. This is week number 29, and I'm recording this on the 10th of May, end of my work week, on a Friday, as always. We're close to the 30 mark 30 weeks of working and 30 weeks of pondering into this theme, and I gotta say, it doesn't feel like 30 weeks, but I'm definitely having a lot of results of 30 weeks results. In this week, I have very naturally progressed to the amount of work that I intended to do this week. It was sort of a very productive week. I finished section number 6, 5, and 7, and now I'm left with 8 and 9. 9 is just tiles, the stones on the background, so it's very easy. I can do that in a day. And the eighth section, which is the triangle, the section where the figure, the focal point of the design is still left to do, and that will probably take a few days. And with it, the conclusion of the design is very close. So before ending the workday today, I made sure to make the measurements for section 8. I still am missing the face section of the figure, but I left it last, given that that's usually done in a few hours, and formulating the figure and actually adding the details, the embellishments that I want is far more important. So I'm going to be tackling that this week, and that's how the workload will go, and hopefully I get to finish it. It is my sort of hypothetical deadline next week on the 17th, which is basically close to the 1 month mark of the design, given that I started this on the 16th of the last month of April, and usually it's been coming along to every month I'm able to dish out a design. Now, in this design, I have done things a bit differently, as I always do. For one, I have opened up and asked a lot of the listeners and on my social account on their definition of the word, state, emotion, loneliness. And I got some very interesting feedback that it's going to add on to the story and at the same time enhance how I, as the storyteller, I'm able to inclusively add people that I want to represent. Given that I'm not making this story for me, and if that was the case, why would I even share it? I'm creating sort of an inclusivity on these emotions, this state, even though the context might be different. It just brings out this part of our lives that creates some conversations between our minds or our peers or whatever. So I for the first time asked for help, which is very difficult for me to do, to ask people for help. I am used to doing things on my own, and I usually stay away from asking any type of help. But I felt that given that I don't really have connections or conversations with people anymore, as I am not streaming this live, I'm not really on a live broadcast creating this. I thought it is essential for me to bring this feedback that I was getting before my previous theme in here. So I asked, and for anyone who is listening to this recording here today, your valuable feedback on your definition of loneliness is essential for me to understand its diversity, because I know how diverse it can be. And if you wish and want to, or any of that sort, want to reach out to me and say your definition of it, in the description there is my Instagram. Just pop on there and DM me, and I'll happily have a conversation about it, and really have a think on where you're coming from and all that. As I said in my social, this will remain anonymous. I'm not gonna mention any of your names and all that, and it's just for me to better understand this diverse feeling. So feel free to, at any point in your day, months, whether you're thinking this or whatever, to reach out. Please do. It's essential for my understanding of this emotion. And as I move away from that excitement that I've gotten, because it was exciting for me to put myself a bit out there, lower my pride, and really allow for the purpose of why I'm doing this to come forth. I really learned a lesson here, and I'm gonna be bringing this forth. And any questions that I'm gonna be having about emotions or any type of feedback that I want for this theme, I'm gonna be asking for it. So that was a nice push and an induction for myself into the realm of asking help. Alongside that, I caught myself as I was working on these side parts, sort of the pillars of the design, sort of the left and right side of the composition. I left myself a lot freer than I usually do. What I mean by that is that measurements guide me to an extent, and then I take the helm and I sort of complete it and make it sort of come forward and merge with the other components. And usually in a ratio, I do that 50-50, but this time I've done it sort of like 30-70. 30 being the guideline, 70 being my input and understanding of what I'm seeing around and how that will accumulate together. And I found myself again introducing new textures, introducing new elements, because I've gotten the confidence from the peer reviews, sort of designs, and it's been a wonderful side. And at the same time, I've been having very fascinating conversations with my mind that I usually do, and I have explained before in my previous logs that as I'm drawing, I'm having conversations with my mind about what I'm doing, or maybe a past interaction or an emotional state or any of that kind. And as I do that, I bring myself into a perspective to understand maybe a past action of mine or anything that I've done that warranted the emotion or the reaction that I've gotten. And as I was in sort of doing this 70% of like helm driving captain of this ship type of situation, I felt that I was having a lot of positive feedback within myself, which usually stems, like the norm will be negativeness, and how would I navigate through that, or a past thing that I was doing that was negative, or an emotion or something that is relevant to what I'm depicting. But this time it was more of like appreciating how far I came, and it really sort of translated in the art, which was very interesting. And I have to say that it's been it's been a while, but in this week I have consistently worked on quite heavily, full on hours. My productive hours being in the morning up until noon. That's my productive hours in drawing. Sort of from 6:30 to noon in the morning. That's where I strive. That's where all my energy comes from, and I do that. And I've started seeing how that sort of accumulates and how that expresses itself without really having to think about it a lot. Because before, as I was referencing in a lot of the logs leading up to this one, it was breaking down patterns and then learning new ones, and then how that applies to the theme and being critical about it, and so on and so forth. And it's been a joy to see this come forth, and how willingly and open I am to changing my patterns, at the same time realizing my strengths as I am working alone and I'm not really having any distractions, and that could lead to me being my own distraction, aka intrusive thoughts, anything of a kind that will lead me away from what I want to do, or what I feel like is appropriate to do at the hour that I am at. So the week has sort of played out as me having the measurements ready as I did in the previous week for this week, at least the beginning ones, and then up until noon I would work on that, and then afternoon time I would do some more measurements for the things that I was going to do tomorrow. So it was a nice pattern of me full on drawing and then going back to the drawing board, doing more of the measurements, and then the next day doing the same thing again until I completed what I was after this week. I left some question marks in composition section 7. The composition section 7, if you remember, I think I'm going to have it prompt up so you guys can understand. It's that little square where it's within the bigger square of section 5 that ideally would cover just until the top part of the section, just a bit higher than it already is. It's a bit smaller than it actually is, and I've left a question mark there after I finish everything to compile that, and maybe I would still leave it empty until I do the story part, sort of the addition of the notes or whatever the story part is happening in this composition, because I feel that it's gonna be sort of a leeway to my future self to have the exploration that I'm supposed to have with the story, and then have this to be sort of now that you realize that, now show it in a very clever way type of thing. It's hard to explain, but I'm gonna attempt that when the time comes, and that would lead me to finishing this design this week. I'm pretty confident in that, if not a few days of the next week, the week after that, I mean. And then I have a dilemma of, yes, I'm going to continue the new design, and yes, we're going to finish it. But I wanted to really bring forth the amount of work that I've been doing and showcase that in a cohesive way, probably on my social media, and probably to here, just sort of like showcase what I've been doing in pretty cohesive checklist type of thing. So you know what I've done, and you know what is left until the deadline that I'm aiming, which is Christmas time. So I think I'm gonna do that in between. Another thing that is worth noting, this month that is coming, aka the beginning of summer, maybe May is considered summertime as well, but June until August, I want to fit in a session where I again reintroducing my flow paintings, the ones that remain to sell them. So it's something that I am thinking of doing in the meantime, sort of laying down the foundation in that. And as soon as I do that, then it's gonna release sometime this summer. And considering how the design that is going to come, design number 6, is the final design of this smaller designs, then leading me into the 3 bigger ones. I was feeling maybe having a break of reconsidering and sort of seeing where I'm at, just to know how to approach the 3 bigger designs. I mean, I know how they're gonna look, but I need some reevaluations now. Like I've done so much work on the 6 designs, so now that I am going back to the original ones, aka the bigger ones, the ones that will sort of prompt to the smaller ones, I need to reconsider stuff and redo them. So I was thinking, after I finish section 6 design, I will see where I'm at and how things will go, and see a rough timeline. I'm not really pushing myself to be reaching the deadline, but if I do, that's great. If not, we're talking about an extra month of delay, or something equivalent to that, just to really wrap this up quite nicely. And it's been great. Um, every week that I've spent on this, I become more and more disciplined behind this, because I know that I've, starting from zero and now being sort of way into it, you know that there's no turning back, and the only logical and smart thing to do is finish it. So my discipline is becoming more narrow, and I'm beginning to encourage myself to continue on forth, without obviously burning out myself, or causing a disruption of anything that life throws at me, and me having to put my attention to that, which I find very important. Or the idea that, yes, I am dedicated in this, but then if something happens in my life, I'm able to sort of digest that and then come back to this and add the digestive part that I've done from this IRL experience or anything and bring it back here, which I think is the powerful thing of yes, having a deadline, but at the same time incorporate life as life is incorporating the events that is shown to you. And I find that beautiful. And I find it worth showing here and in the story and any part of my artistic endeavors. And yeah, I'm quite excited how I was able to ask for help. And again, anyone who is listening and wants to give me their feedback about on these questions, I'm gonna be kindly asking to go into the even the comment section if you guys want. But it's if you feel you don't want to post it publicly, then totally understand that it's a sensitive subject for most, and I don't want to make it seem like it isn't. So on my Instagram, there is a section of the story highlights. There's a section called feedback, and if you press that, you can see what I'm actually requesting in a bit more detail. And my DMs are open to anyone who wishes to include themselves in this. And I should have done that earlier, but I guess I am beginning to warm up myself and sort of really hype up myself in what is to come, and I'm really taking it seriously. Not that before I wasn't, but now I know that we're sort of approaching or even going over halfway mark of this arc, and I really want to give it what it deserves. So yeah, this week is about finishing design, and I hope I can see some of you giving me their feedback on these emotional conversations that I'm trying to decipher and add to my plethora of knowledge that I wanted to be always ever growing. So yeah, thank you for listening, and let's see how this week treats us all.